Hello everybody. Video about the anger up here. I already made one video, but it was a little bit corrupted, and I'm just gonna do some makeover version. So it. If you already just watch the video that I was talking about the realization, I already mentioned that this video is actually is gonna be attached to that video simply to understand what's happening with all that story with an anger of with another twin flame. I was on a phone call right now on a Facebook with someone who got separated, and the anger was actually involved. So there is a reason why that old video cropped out, simply because the new information just walked in because of that phone call. And what's going on about the anger? What is that part? When the both two twin flames they meet, each of them have a different stage of life. They probably, like most of the twin flames, they're probably married or in some kind of relationship, and all of a sudden this kaboom energy within love, within the soul, it's ignited, and the both two they start feeling things, and they start, what's this, what's that, trying to figure out the way and balancing this, to managing this, or what actually it is. It's the fight for the control over the connection, without understanding that neither the one or the other can control the connection. So over the time, when the both you understand that they cannot really control this connection, one takes the low side and the other say the high side. And what is the low side? The low side is pick up the ego as understanding of learning of how to proceed to navigate from the three-dimensional standpoint, and the ego creates anger that the situation does not go the way the person sees it. That usually is going to be the runner. That is the person who doesn't satisfy the earth needs part. Probably it's going to begin with physicality problems, like physicality excuses. Oh, you're maybe not tall enough, you're not skinny enough, you're not pretty enough, or the ego is gonna start talking all the bad stuff inside of it, or it's gonna be finding like a different excuses, like you're not good enough for me. What are you gonna be offering to me? It is about something that it's gonna have within the material world, simply because that's what the template is. What you put in the table for me to be in a relationship with you. Um, and that creates anger, simply because it's something different. You can't just go ahead and do that, because the soul connection now exists, and that is the variable within the connections between the twins. The other one, it's actually take the high road, which is that is a in the soul, and the anger vibrations that come within the soul, they're much more stronger. They're much more, simply because they're vibrations from above, and they're not exactly as an anger, but they will feel as an anger. And I'm labeling them as an anger simply because the person is awakened, the person living the truth, and the person says like, what are you doing? Why are you looking at everything as a earth-based knowledge? We are twin flames. We awaken. We work with the soul. You have to look everything within the soul. Why you don't trust me? But over the time, the one or the other, they start having this tension between the two different type of angers, and that is the separation. And during the separation, they both will have a very big sorrows, very big tensions into. like something very dear, it goes away. It fades away. It will lead to sadness, crying, missing, and so on and so on and so on. That's the part, and this is the part of the separation that come Zen. But it's very important that I wrote this of it, and this is what we want to be talking about today. Is that anger in normal life is what the ego wants to be others to perform for us, and that anger actually it's the demand. You to demand the other person to perform, to do an action for us. Also, there is a demand, if you take a look from the soul level, that for the truth. And this is why the next one is that the anger in the soul allows vibrations of not being true. Simply because the soul, it's like, why you don't see the truth? Why you don't see that you are not vibrating the same as soul? What's making you to not be your truth? And this is the part when the one runs away and the other is beginning to chase, simply because the part of the whole journey is to understand the truth. It's all about the truth. Until the both two will begin to understand that their journey as a soul begin when they transform their own darkness to love. During this process of chasing or running, the chaser gains knowledge about how to put up more and more love until understand that the love grows high till it says like, you know what, I'm gonna stop chasing you. You need to learn your part. That is actually the part when the runner begins their journey as a soul. Simply right now nobody follows them as a soul. And right now they're gonna be working on their darkness to become love, Zavet. But you need to be very careful with all this anger issues. Simply because the anger issues, I was just talking to a guy, I said a guy, not a girl, not a woman, a guy. He got separated from his twin simply because of his anger issues. There was of his insecurities, and he had to learn in the hard way all this separation. He's all over in tears of what happened and all that part of it. He's from Argentina, and during the talks with him, I just stopped him for a second. I told him you need to calm down because the anger is inside of you. It's too strong. I can feel it. And he's like, yes, you're right. The anger is too much inside of me. And I had little conversations over and show him that the best part to heal the anger is to forgive the person and to evolve to become love. Simply because if you love, there is no more anger. You look at it at a higher level of soul and use like the person is not educated yet. The person doesn't really understand that part. That why do I have to be angry of the truth? They have to learn the truth on their own. And that's what that video is more about, to go a little bit more deeper within this anger. And specifically that he's the awakened one. I spoke to him, and what happens is when you awaken and when you work with the vibrations, specifically on the soul, you may be a little bit sad for rest of the world. You possess the vibrations of a dead man. I mean, everything like died in you, and they don't understand that you possessing the high level vibrations in soul, which is for you. Maybe you're just sad the way life is. For them, it's just something humongous happened. But if you have a very strong emotions of love or strong emotions of anger, and they crossing the part then the soul becomes vibrations, then the people will really get scared from you. turn those vibrations of anger and those vibrations or vibrations of love, they become something very, very strong, simply because the vibrations through soul are higher level. And a lot of the twin flames, they feel that anger or they feel that love, and they go into fear mode, simply because for them, they have not experienced that part. For them, there is a part that it's too strong to take it, and they withdraw or they run away. So, the real part is that during that inner work that you're going to work on yourself in your journey is the inner fight within yourself. And one of the hardest things you will ever do in your soul journey is to free your soul. And what I mean by freeing your soul is that the soul is under this programming from society, parents, religion, you name it, friends, co-workers, everybody that was involved in our life. And they try to tell us how we to be the best living in the world, for our best success, to be more successful in the three-dimensional world, to have a 20 freaking houses, or to have a 20 freaking cars, to have more and more and more. Guess what? You die and you don't take in even a single atom out of here. So what happened is during this process that I'm trying to tell you right now in your soul journey is that it starts from your own demons inside of your ego. You begin to look at it, how bad is your ego is, how you are been acting and reacting within people, and what the situation is. Simply because that anger has been inside of you, calculating for whatever happened, or whatever the situation. Just to remind you this, because as of twin flames, the energies they are much more stronger within twin flames than an average person. If you're next to a twin flame who is an aggravated, or who is in love, or he's got emotions, you as a normal person, you will feel it. And it's much better for you to educate that if you hear the word twin flame, that these people are people who vibrate in high vibrations as emotions. That's part of you to understand. And when you see an anger of that part, or you see the ego which comes out of these people as a twin flame, you to understand these people are working on their journey. And if that was you as a twin flame, you to understand your ego part of it. That part of inner work, it begins when the separation is. That is the part when you looking deep inside of you and you try to become the best version of yourself. Because down the road, okay, you will be go ahead and realize of who you are. And when you realize who you are, throughout the mirror effect within the twin flames, so use your twin flame is going to mirror the realization. But if you're chasing, with that part chasing, running part, the realization don't begin. The realization doesn't begin to you, and doesn't begin for them as well. So, the other part is that you begin to understand that you have to dissolve the old way of life. You have to dissolve this old way of understanding. The most of the part of if you watch the realization video is that the lady, she begin to realize her part when she had her communications between the soul and the universe. But how would you want to have these communications open? It's only when you dissolve your ego. So you can allow the soul to come in, the soul to become alive. and you start begin to being a part of acting as a soul on this earth, not acting as an ego. And then all of a sudden the things become different in your life. The things begin more easy on you. And the anger, it's kind of like a deep, start getting dissolved, and you start understanding that all that it was is the part of the old belief system that was the ego-based three-dimensional, and you start looking the parts, everything from a soul perspective. For instance, before you see a person, you will judge them, and you're like, well, he's too skinny, he's too fat, he's not material secure, he's blah blah blah. Now as a soul, you see, well, God gave them the body that it's perfect for them. I don't have to look at their body. I need to look at their soul, who they are as a soul, what do they do as a soul, how reacting as a soul they are. If they have any problems, you look at it as like, well, they have problems. They probably have a bad relationship, or they have things they need to do, or they have an unsolved problem. God knows what to do with them, but I have to just let it go. They'll come up on their own. They'll do what they have to do, and that is the part when you actually dissolve the ego. That is that inner process of dissolving the ego. When you become as the soul, and the anger, the way it goes of it, of the truth, you begin to realize this part. This is I love many with my body, mind, and ego, but my soul loves only you. And you go through this part of the anger. When you let it go, you understand that the anger have no more parts of this, and you will find there is so many layers with an anger. You will peel them off. They could be caused by grief. They could be caused for maybe there was whatever the story. I mean, there is a lot of stories of twin flames. Zealot, because simply the part is that we're not evolved enough, and also there was not knowledge enough for the twin flames. For the past 2-3 years, I've seen that the twin flames, that it's beginning to, as a relationship, to evolve much more. More and more people getting connected, more and more people getting to this part to move up. But now it's the part of the people who are already been to this, is to shine up the road. And I see that a lot of people begin to post videos, begin to make reading posts on a Facebook, or putting some videos on YouTube. And if you look at it, some of those people, they may be in the beginning to polishing themselves. But if you look at it, the messages they have, the messages are a little bit higher notch. They're a little bit a higher level. And a lot of the people, they don't understand that higher level. They're like, well, I don't know what is this person he's talking about. It will take some time, this part to comes in. And I'm saying it is because I seen some people, and I helping some of those people to develop themselves. So simply because they come in out in the open to create this statement. Simply because when you're a twin flame, you can't just hide. Okay. The other part of the anger that comes in, it's that during the beginning of the process of it, is that the ego-based, the three-dimensional part of the twin flame, they will want everything to be hidden, to not be spoken to the public, to stay low. Every love story, as they're awakening, it's supposed to be told. simply because the others to learn. And for example, you cannot have all the stories for all the Disney princesses if those stories were not told over and over and over throughout generations, simply to learn from those stories that the love it's what is more important with that part. And when that part comes in of it, uh, the one of the person that is in three-dimensional, they want to hide the connection. They will deny the connection. They will be like Peter. Peter, when they ask him if he's with Jesus, like, no, not. And that was the part of this relationship, that this relationship in the soul, it's require one thing, is that is you to be a truth. And that's why this anger also exists on the other side, because of the truth. So to go on with that, how you do this? You seek the truth inside of you when you end up in a very tough possessions of life, throughout life. Even specifically as a twin flame, life is going to be very more tough as a twin flame than any three-dimensional insecurities you can have. Okay, it's not easy to live a life as a twin flame, specifically if the situations are complicated, not a problematic, but complicated. We're going to use some different words, not problems. We're going to be talking about just challenges, okay? We're going to call them challenges. It's not about different terminology, simply because when we start talking about problems, we go to the three-dimensional world. When I say challenges, is like something that you can actually fix and overcome. So that's what the party comes in. The word has a different vibration in order. So what happens is over the time that you're going into the darkness. You're going to look at your own darkness. You probably go into an anger issues. You go into deep parts inside of you. That's the part when you go ahead and find yourself, and you're going to be emerged, evolve out of that. Simply because when you're in the darkness, you awaken your soul. Because simply it's going to be the only one light that's shining you. People ask me, Dio, but what do you mean by that? What I mean by that is that there is this moment of life when you just sit down broken. Probably, like for instance, for example, you find yourself on the end of the world without any money in your pocket. The rent has to be paid off. You find yourself in a very tough situation, and all of a sudden it's like, God, what did I did that for? What I'm going to do now? How I'm gonna get my life into it? And this is the part when you go to that darkness, you go inside of the soul, and the soul is just for a minute, it's like you switching for a second. You're switching inside of you, like somebody turn on the light, and all of a sudden you start getting information. You can do this and this. You can do that and that. You can go ahead find this and this. You can go do this and this. That's the part. It's where the soul is talking to you. And when that part comes in, you begin to evolve. You begin to emerge as a strong soul. And then you understand that the anger that you've been went through it, all of a sudden it pays off. You don't need that angers anymore. You don't need those vibrations anymore. The only thing that you need to do is to become love. Because with love, you're going to be able to overcome everything that is on your way of it. Simply because if you're love, you have no anger, and or you are your love. And with that, I want to finish this part. I'm finishing my videos with Pilaf. But the part is to understand that if you recreate separations, if you recreate this part of separating something that it comes together, we start learning dualities. And if you start learning the good and the bad and the ugly and the pretty and the skinny and the fat, we have this duality system inside of us. We have judgments. Now, during to this, we choose what to do on those judgments. Now, if you become love, you're like, oh, well, they're perfect the way they are. And you will understand that the more you become that love, the more you become the part of the universe. And when you do that part of the universe, you begin to understand that the only journey that you actually have as a twin flame, as a realization, is you to trust the universe and you to trust your path that you walked in your journey, and you transform everything that you're touching out there to be love. Be love.